Actually, after Trump said he'd enact these new tariffs on Canada and Mexico, the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, floated the possibility of these retaliatory tariffs. Is there any concern, you think, within Trump world about this?
Well, in one way, Trump views, on the one hand, as Kelly said, he views tariffs as a very beautiful word, but he also views it as a point of leverage and negotiation. And I think back to something Jared Kushner actually once told me when, in 2016, when Trump did something that seemed on its surface crazy. And they said, look, we believe that even though this was maybe the wrong decision, that it has a benefit for him because it keeps people on their toes and they don't know if he's actually going to do the thing or not. If he's actually going to, he said he's going to levy these tariffs. Maybe he's using it for leverage. Maybe he's using it for negotiation. Maybe he backs down when Mexico comes in threatening their own tariffs. But they believe, as it has with NATO and in other areas, the fact that Trump very well might do the thing he's saying and the fact that he very well might not gives them leverage because he behaves as such an unpredictable negotiator.
Yeah, I mean, Ashley, and it's probably, there must be some to the fact that Trump, during his first administration, threatened Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the president of Mexico at the time, with tariffs if he didn't do something to what Mexico ended up doing was putting up to 20,000 troops in the southern border with Guatemala and Chiapas, but also towards the north as well. So he may be thinking that, well, with Mexico, President Sheinbaum, who is a protege of Andrés Manuel López Obrador, just the threat of it, it worked the first time, maybe it's going to work this time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. A tariff has real impact, but so does the threat of a tariff. And one downside of tariffs for the American consumer is that oftentimes the cost is not borne by those other countries, but it's borne in the prices that Americans will end up paying. And that's something that Americans have been very clear is unacceptable to them. It's one of the reasons, frankly, Trump won, because inflation and prices had gone up under the Biden administration. And so there is a world where if he carries through on this threat, and that's not even a guarantee that he will carry through, but that oftentimes he does something, then there is an outcry from his base, and that forces him to readjust yet again. So that's also another way this could potentially end.
Chuck, how do you see this? Because, again, Trump and, Ashley was talking about unpredictability is something that maybe foreign leaders can expect to be predictable.
Well, look, what the tariff regime allows him to do is it makes him the central force and the central negotiating person on pretty much everything. I mean, not to go all George Will on you, but, this has been a century-long effort by Congress to essentially hand power over to the executive branch. This is one of the many powers that that Congress has handed to the presidency on these tariff regimes. And so it is to sort of follow up on what Ashley was saying, the feature is forcing a negotiation. The feature isn't the tariff itself, right? That's what Trump loves so much about this, is that it brings people to the table. In many ways, it brings people asking for favors for him. He slaps a tariff on, and an importer might say, hey, well, not on these goods. What can I do for you, Mr. President, that would take this off the tariff list? And you can see suddenly it's a favor here and a favor there. This is why it's potentially a very corruptible part of government if we're not careful here and if it's not abused. And I think that is certainly a concern when you talk to the more libertarian-minded economics folks, including the folks at the Cato Institute. This is another reason why tariffs potentially are so damaging to the country, because it's so easily corruptible. It becomes part of this back and forth deal making. And by the way, just to simplify this, we're talking about tariffs, but let me make this pretty simple. If this slaps on, it's a guacamole tax. We get most avocados in this country come from Mexico. If you enjoy guacamole, be prepared to pay a higher tax for it if these tariffs go through.
No, I mean, guacamole is one thing, and you're absolutely right. I mean, not only most of the avocados come from Mexico, but the best ones do come from Mexico. And so, but it's also, automobiles that we buy in our country by American companies many times are made in and assembled in Mexico. Washing machines, dryers, water heaters. I mean, the list is endless. And I'm curious, Chuck, and I'm just kind of off course a little bit of our conversation, but you're talking about the corruption of government. In your latest piece, you describe Trump's transition as the destructive politics of, quote, whatever it takes. What do you mean by that? And I'm so fascinated by your analysis of this because there is and has been a corruption element to government in our nation for the longest time.
Look, it is, you can't sit here and say there's never been corruption in government. It's almost as old as the Republic itself, but as a friend of mine said, there was a time when the corruption at least benefited constituents, right? The congressman may take a kickback from a company, but it was a kickback that got them a permit or got them a regulation that allowed them to build in that district, right? And now the corruption is a whole new level. Now people go into Congress simply to get an account on Cameo or something like that. And what I'm saying is that it's when we no longer allow character or moral failings to be disqualifying. And when you start to chip away at that and chip away at that and chip away at that, and you start to believe that politics is so rough and tumble that it is only for the amoral, or it's only for those that have the stomach for it. And a lot of times it's people that have different moral compass than other parts of the electorate. And it's that chip away. And if you get people who are willing to essentially not follow a moral compass, say in their personal life, and you put them in charge of a massive government agency, the possibility of corruptibility only increases. And we know this. We know character is king when it comes to these things. And I just think, take, a couple of the nominees. No one says that the president shouldn't have somebody who he wants to see reform the Pentagon. Can't you find somebody who didn't have the police called after they had intimate relations with somebody? And that's sort of the point I'm going here. Why is it that it's so important to, quote unquote, own the libs, that if you agitate the quote unquote other side or make people uncomfortable with your picks on a character basis, you're winning. And I don't know what you're winning, but I know the country's not winning.
One of the favorite quotes of mine by Maimonides, which I often refer to, he said, "In the world there are no perfect men or women. All humans are composed of merits and sins. And likewise, there can be no perfect or infallible states or governments. If the conduct of its members merits exceeds sins, then justice reigns in that state or government. And if sins exceed merits, there reigns corruption." We can always learn from the past, and Rabbi Maimonides is one that I absolutely refer to all the time. Chuck Todd and Ashley Parker, my friends, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.